In news that absolutely nobody was expecting. Seriously, after the monumental failure during its launch month, it would be ludicrous to suspect otherwise. It turns out that Perfect World and Hotta Studios have spent time in deep contemplation concerning what having a globally accessible MMO would mean for them. Money. Ridiculous amounts of money. Hey, my name is STIX and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you're at all interested in MMO or RPG related news, make sure you click that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell, as that will allow for you to remain up to date with game news like this in the future. So, on December 28th, I did a video titled Tower of Fantasy cancels its global English release. That was a video that I was not overly thrilled to make, as I was genuinely anticipating this game more than almost any other MMO this year. It made sense though. Tower of Fantasy was unfortunately an absolute mess. It barely passed as a functional game. They were caught up in a variety of different legal situations due to things like plagiarism, stealing assets from Honkai Impact for their trailers, but that is not what we're here today to discuss. They've made strides over the last few months and are still actively continuing to develop the game. And at their recent investor meeting, Perfect World revealed that they are releasing Tower of Fantasy globally in 2022. And they are also overhauling it with a 2.0 update, which means that realistically, we can once again get our hopes up. If they manage to let us down a second time though, I'll probably end up crying in a corner if I'm being completely honest with you. But I will cry rivers of manly tears. Now, before we go any further, I will note that this investor meeting was entirely in Chinese, and as such, I have been forced to use DeepL to translate it, and then I pieced together as much of it as I possibly could to present it in an easily digestible format. To start things off, Perfect World went on to open by stating that they are still just as focused on making MMOs as ever. They have been focused recently on readjusting their overseas team and optimizing their domestic teams and projects. They're working on transforming their company, and Tower of Fantasy is integral to the success of that transformation. Profit from Tower of Fantasy has reached their expectations, not surpassed, not failed to live up to, but actually reached their expectations. They are confident that Tower of Fantasy is going to be capable of remaining a long-term competitor for the cross-platform MMO market, with Tower of Fantasy actually breaking a multitude of records for them and allowing for them to reach a new bracket of players interested in multiplayer open-world MMOs. They then noted that future projects are going to take advantage of Tower of Fantasy's successes, with Tower of Fantasy essentially being the foundation of an entirely new genre of video games. They then go on to once again confirm that an overseas version of Tower of Fantasy will launch this year. It's also confirmed that they plan on allocating additional resources to the game and its development, and the global version was never fully called off. To quote, "Learning from our mistakes, we have reorganized our overseas layout with a regional focus on Canada." Whether this means that Canada will be the base of operations for the global incarnation of the game, or that Canada is where they plan on releasing the game first, remains to be seen. But I mean, realistically here, I would assume the former, as it would make absolutely no sense to release a game globally, within Canada only. They then continue, "The development path of overseas localization is much more clear. An overseas strategy will be very important. Our projects are going to be followed by overseas distribution from third-party publishers first and gradually by ourselves. We are not good enough, but we are working hard." Apparently, Tower of Fantasy has had a total of over 10 million active players in its first month of release, and I would like to personally think that I am at least partially responsible for that. I don't know, maybe I'm just patting myself on the head. Although they did confirm that most of these users were not actually interested in traditional MMOs, and their future titles are going to capitalize on this wave of disinterested players. Again, at this point through the meeting, they stress once more that overseas will be online in the middle of 2022. This is much less vague and gives us a better idea of when we might see the game realistically. The middle of 22 could of course be anywhere from May May through August, give or take a month or two. They then confirmed that, much like the Chinese version, the global overseas distributed version will be both PC and mobile compatible. Tower of Fantasy is the only game right now that they are focusing on releasing globally. They noted that some of their other Asian-inspired games just wouldn't really appeal to overseas players. And judging by the critical, I don't really want to say critical, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it, but critical failure that was Swords of Legends Online, I'm gonna go on a limb here and assume that that is accurate. Tower of Fantasy and Million Arthur King are more suitable for globalization, and the first thing to do is to have a more suitable product for global distribution. Tower of Fantasy has had a lot of problems since it began its operations, but we're concerned about the needs of the user, and as such will adopt those needs in the future of our projects and products. With the launch of Tower of Fantasy, we have confidence in the future, and we plan on having a more flexible policy with regards to game development. They've had some issues with both their company and their titles over the course of 2021. However, while Tower of Fantasy is still far away from being a quote-unquote great success, it is nevertheless the direction that they want to take both the company and the direction they're looking to take the future of their games. Tower of Fantasy is the framework for a brand new genre of games, and with the expansion to a global market, a global audience, they are hiring additional staff both within China and overseas to accommodate the increase in workload. So just FYI, if you're a game developer and you live in Canada, this right here might be for you. It looks like they're planning an overhaul for the game in the form of a 2.0 update as well, with the developer team stating that although there were many bugs and operational accidents, I still have confidence in the game's long-term performance, such as version 2.0. At present, there are 200 people working on Tower of Fantasy, with more being hired on in the near future. So to summarize, Perfect World and Hotta Studios are well aware that they messed up by making this a Chinese exclusive MMO. They understand that they have had a lot of issues with the game, but they have been working hard around the clock to remedy said issues in an attempt to get Tower of Fantasy out in 2022 globally this year. Yes, this game will be coming out globally in 2022, with their headquarters seemingly located within Canada, or they're planning on releasing only within Canada, which once more really wouldn't make any kind of sense. They're hiring additional staff to attempt to make the game better, and are actually working on a 2.0 update for the game that could drastically overhaul everything. And to me, this all sounds great. However, after their last screw up, I'm definitely going to be going into this a lot more cautiously. Am I still excited? Yeah, definitely. I've always been excited for this game. It's a Genshin MMO, but I am, at least this time, going to remain a lot more skeptical of it. You know what is the most exciting game for me right now though? This game right here, which you should totally check out.